All right, Melvin Farmer.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, just coming over here, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
This is our third time
Yes,
linking
sir.
up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, that's what's up, man. They really like you, man. You always do good numbers. The fans really seem to like your insight and your insight on everything.
Well, thank you, man. Uh, we just try to use social media in this right platform to where we give information that could bring awareness to issues in communities and other things to help better a person's life as opposed to all this fodder that's going on social media where you got house slaves thinking they better than field slaves and this type of mentality. So we break away, I do, from the chitlin circuit is what I call it, something like people up here propaganda and telling false narratives that's really disrupted to the black communities as well as the brown community in this nation, but it's being done in moderation. So we're going to get rid of these falsehoods as opposed to the truth. Those two cannot exist in any conversation.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, I thought we start off with a topic that you kind of have a little experience in. I believe you were locked up in jail in Georgia for one of your times you was locked
Yeah,
up.
I'm on parole right now where I received an 83-year sentence in Georgia where I was in prison in the chain gang down there from 2010 to 2014.
Okay, and right now, Young Thug and YSL they got this RICO going on there. It's a state RICO, not a federal RICO. A lot of people think it's federal, but it's actually a state RICO, and things are looking pretty bad for them. It looks like they got them on some wiretaps, maybe. They probably got some people cooperating. It's not looking good for them. What do you think about all that?
Well, let's first distinguish federal RICO law statutes as opposed to state RICO law. The Little RICO Act is what they really call it. Because in Georgia, you also have another guideline sentence called the 7 deadly sins, which can give you a life sentence if you commit one of those 7 deadly sins. That's how I ended up with 83 years. But when it comes to young Gunna, Young Thug, and the rest of them they were indicted the first time behind an indictment that was unsealed. Then they arrested him. Then when they went to the house to arrest him and they found the weapons where I think they gave him other charges, they probably won't go to court for 90 days because that's going to have to be sent to the grand jury. When you get arraigned in Georgia, you get indicted to where they got a bill of indictment that would take 90 days. But it's very rare that they press state charges amongst a criminal gang. And we need to really know the definition of what a criminal gang is. A street gang, a youth gang, which they're up under. The standards of proof are different when it comes to them. Say, for instance, you only can get a federal RICO Act if you're considered an enterprise. That must be one of the elements. But as they're going to court, the criminal activity is what create the guidelines for prosecution. That's why they have so many charges. So it's a different standard of proof where they're at in Fulton County in Atlanta. I was in Gwinnett County Jail for 2 years.
Yeah, this new RICO that they're doing, it's kind of crazy because some of those guys aren't even really charged with a crime.
Well, what happens is
Their only crime is being part of the gang.
what happens is first we need to know what gangs mean when it comes to that.
Right.
And as a definition, there's not one broad brush for that. But how the Justice Department and the State Department define a criminal street gang, which is what they're charged with, that's when you have 3 or more people as a group operating in a disrupted manner, which will cause harm, criminal activities. So you can have a conspiracy to where you didn't do nothing, but you were part of that group. And it's a difference, and it's usually based between, you got youth gangs, they're between the ages of 12 and 24, and then you got street gangs, which is state prison, and then you got outlaw motorcycle gangs. Those other two do not get tried up under state RICO Act. Only the street gangs, and very few gangs or streets get the RICO Act. They very seldom implement it, so it's not a new law. It just not hasn't been implemented. But this could be a litmus test to whereas it could spread across the nation and it will wipe out all these gangs, street gangs, gangster disciples, vice lords, and others, because you have 3 levels of street gangs: local, national, and global. Like gangster disciples, vice lords, they're regional. You don't have them here in California. Whereas, say, Crips and Bloods, they're global on every continent, as well as the Latin Kings out of New York. They are in other countries, as opposed to gangster disciples, Midwest, vice lords, MS-13. All those type of groups are considered street gangs, but they usually will get tried up under federal act. So this very rare. That's what's happening with young Gunna.
Yeah, it's man, I feel like, man, I just feel like the cops and the police, they're just like extra targeting hip hop right now. It's
Well,
crazy.
you have Thana Williams. I think that's the prosecutor in this case. And she went and had talked to the victim of the murder case when she said she was gonna get him. But this lady is not no joke. She's also the one that went after Trump behind voter fraud in Georgia, where she filed a complaint with him. But one of her campaign promises was she was gonna stop crime in Fulton County, which is Atlanta. If you ever watch Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, you'll hear him say shorty, or you'll hear him say cuz. When you say shorty, that means you're a city boy, Fulton County up in there. When you say cuz, that means you're a country boy, Savannah, Macomb, and things like that. So they're in a county that's one thing good in their favor. It's a group where it's a people that are their peers. A lot of blacks are in that community, as opposed to getting where I was at, Gwinnett County, and things of this nature. So at the end of the day, they're going to have to prove that they planned and schemed, and that's part of the process of getting prosecution. They don't care about who was the leader of the pack when you're dealing with the RICO Act on the state level. What they have to prove is that they continued and did an act twice. And that's the standards. That's why they packed the charges on them, to where they stacked them up, to where they got so many charges, to where any one of them, a multitude of them, could get them a life sentence. Although it starts at, I think, 5 to 20. But with mitigated circumstances such as murder, carjacking, extortion, that could be an added incentive to where you end up with a life sentence or become an LWOP, life without parole.
Now,